Welcome, everybody, to Laying the Points with Farley Bets. New listeners, recurring listeners, everybody who's been joining us on this, what is this now, Steve? 15-week journey into the NFL here as Steve and I go over every single game that's happening every single week from an ATS perspective, going over all of our angles and how we're looking at these games. So welcome, everybody. Got some exciting things going on, Steve, but we'll get to that in a second. A little clue there on Steve's hat in case you don't know. But thanks for joining us on this podcast today, everybody. If you're watching us live, check out those things that are scrolling beneath Steve and I. TheOddsBreakers.com for all of your betting information, articles, and content is constant there on every sport you could ever imagine betting on. So check out our articles there and all the great writers there at the Odds Breakers. Check out Sports Wagering University at Sports Wager U on Twitter, on TikTok. Making some moves and gaining energy and steam with that as well. A lot of courses coming next year and a lot of different sports on sports betting, teaching you how to bet like the pros. And finally, check me out on BetUS TV 4 times a week, talking my NBA bets, Steve, where I'm still hitting around 55%. We're up about 20 units right now, so things are going good. I had a really good week last week. Had a streak there. I was like 14-4 over like 7 days, so that treated me well.
Mm-hmm.
Follow Steve and I on Twitter at Snorm is Steve, SNORM twice. That's Bo Bets to you guys. And you can follow me, Farley Bets, at Chris R. Farley 1. With that, Steve, let's go over our records from last week. I know we both had pretty good weeks. How'd you do?
Great week. I kind of called my shot Saturday night. I had a feeling about a lot of these favorites going into the week, and it was almost pretty much a chalk week. I think only 3 of the dogs ended up covering out of the whole week, which is insane, considering how the last 4 to 5 weeks have especially been in this whole season as well. Not a lot of upsets were happening at all. My record went 10-4. Plus 5.41 units, so it was really good to get back on that winning track, bringing my overall to 115-85, and I'm up 30.98 units, almost 31 units on the year now. So good week, definitely needed it, and as we'll get to it, those Browns sure did let us down, though.
They sure did. That was I'll get amped up at some point on the show talking about that shit. But yeah, good week for me too, Steve. I went 9-6 for plus 4 units. That actually only brings me to just about 6 units on the year. Had some rough weeks there in between. But that makes me 96 and 90 overall. Good to see you back, man. I mean, 30 units up is unbelievable. Steve, I know you had some weeks where you thought had some down weeks. You're just pretty much even, and now you're back on the winning track, man. So that's awesome. And with that, we got some other things going on. You might have heard, you might have been paying attention to us on Twitter. Steve, holy shit, man. Let's talk about Circa. Steve, we are. Oh, wait, let me cue this music here, folks. Let's cue some music. Let's get amped here about this. Steve, can you hear that?
Oh, I hear that.
Oh, baby. Steve,
I'm ready to
song. I want to run through a fucking wall.
Ready to go make a tackle.
Do some sit-ups, do some push-ups.
Yeah.
Steve, we are 46, 23-1 in Circa, 27th place out of over 4,000 people in this contest. Steve, 4 weeks left, man.
4 weeks.
4 weeks left.
Yep.
And,
4 weeks.
Dude, I mean, the time is now, obviously. I mean, we can't. This is of the utmost concern for us. And I'm almost thinking, Steve, what could be happening here is we could be having, like the Patriots, right? We could have some listening ears, some watching eyes, trying to hear about our angles and everything on this show.
Spygate now.
Yeah, a little Spygate going on. So are we going to give our circuit picks in this show? Absolutely not. We'll talk about our angles. We'll be very honest, as always. But guys, make sure you check out our Circa picks every Sunday morning. I woke up a little bit later last Sunday. I think I woke up at like 9:45, so I had to rush and get them out. But usually between 9 and 10 a.m., Steve and I will give out all of our Circa picks, and we are 8-2 the last 2 weeks. Like I said, 46, 23-1 over the year. That's over 65%. So that's probably your best resource for our picks every single week. It's our best picks, obviously. And Steve, to be in this position, man, with 4 weeks left, hopefully this isn't the height of our position. Hopefully it gets better and better. But it feels like we got to go at least 4-1 every week.
Well, and that's the thing too. It's not over yet. We still have 4 weeks. So when you and I were just talking before we started, last week I was really bold and bullish on the Bears, and that was one of those games that we could have probably gotten away from. Little too cute on my part. I thought I was being really smart. Obviously not. You go 5-0 there. You can't think like this, obviously. But if we would have gone, if the Browns, could have just held on to what was it, their 24-3 lead at one point and covered that, that could be two right there. Two weeks of 5-0. That puts us up in sixth place. But the key reason I'm bringing that up is that's just 2 weeks of a difference in our place, right? So there's 4 weeks left. There's a lot that can happen. Just got to stay the course, not get too ahead of ourselves, really
Yep.
now dial in a little more, keep sharpening, and hopefully we can just continue that run at it.
Yeah, stick to our process. I know for me, Steve, like it's been tough because I love listening to NFL podcasts, but
Hmm.
I haven't touched an NFL podcast now in weeks because that's been part of my process, you know.
Yep.
So I'm
Yep.
sticking to it. And the frustrating thing about last week was we had, one of the toughest parts of Circa is picking the right games. So you could have angles on 10 games and feel confident about it, but what five do you want?
Hmm.
And last week, Steve, we had the Seahawks covering, we had the Packers covering, we had the Cowboys covering.
Yep.
We almost put all those guys in,
We
and
have them all. Yep.
my bullish ass said, Steve, I really feel great about the Browns. And leading 24-3 at the half with
I
Lamar
mean,
Jackson down felt like the right side. But
hey,
you with the Bears in week 13, me with the Browns in week 14. All right. Hopefully that shit doesn't happen again. But that's the name of the game.
hey,
You
at
know,
least you were up with the Browns, man. I mean, that one was the right side. You missed, they
uh,
missed, they missed the field goal. I knew it.
yeah.
That was it. They missed the field goal.
Yeah, the field goal in the second half. 0
Uh,
points in the second half. My
yep.
goodness.
Hit the field goal, we cover. But hey,
I could talk for 60 minutes about
I
my
know.
how much I despise the Browns after that. I mean,
Oh,
I already kind of did with Baker and now forget about it. But
yep.
all right, man, let's get to this. Chiefs at the Chargers is the first game of the week. The Chargers are 3-point dogs at home. The total's 52. I'll start with this one, Steve. I mean, it's a Thursday night game, so those are always tricky. I try in general, I try not to put too much of my bankroll on Thursday night games. Maybe one unit plays because it's so unpredictable. But this is a battle for first place in the AFC West. The Chiefs now ascending. I believe that's 5 wins in a row for them. Eckler and Mike Williams are a little banged up, limited in practice, but I'm sure they'll play. But Steve, this Chiefs team is allowing under 11 points per game in their last 5 games, not even 11 points per game. That defense has been phenomenal. Really turn that ship around. And for me, Steve, the last 2 wins for the Chargers are kind of phony. So when they beat Cincinnati, that was a good win, but the ball bounced their way in a lot of circumstances in that game. Just mistakes by Cincinnati, and then they faced the piss poor Giants last week at home, and not much of the competition there. And this is a Kansas City team, man, who's locked in. The Chargers beat them earlier in the year. And the Chiefs had more yards in that game. They just had 4 turnovers, no turnovers for the Chargers. They just played a cleaner game. But you're giving me the Chiefs at -3. I don't know if I have a choice here because the Chiefs are so locked in. They're not allowing people to score. They look like the old Chiefs offense too. They're getting it done. And they lost the first game in this series. So you got to think they're going to come out hot, even on the road. I think all the momentum from the 5 games that they've won in a row and how well they're playing, it just carries over into Thursday. I don't think it even matters that it's a short week. Hopefully COVID doesn't hit Kansas City or LA, but I think KC -3 is the right side. What do you got on this one, Steve?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, how many times do when we go before the season even starts, you look at your schedule and you say, "Oh, a division game," so you just chop it up as a split automatically, right? Um, Chargers got the best of the Chiefs, as we know, at the beginning of the year, and the Chiefs weren't themselves then, and now they're a completely different team. It's kind of sounds like at the beginning of the year, everyone was kind of starting to write off the Chiefs, and now no one's really like now there's kind of whispers about them, but it seems like it's all about the Patriots, Patriots, Patriots. Don't sleep on these Chiefs. Let's not forget who they are. They're very capable. One thing that might really affect them this week is Chris Jones. I think was put on the COVID list as well, so he could still possibly, with the testing procedure, be able to still go. tomorrow, but that could be a huge loss for them because I feel like once he came back, that really what jump started that defense to start really balling out. But also Chargers left tackle, I believe, is going to be out, so that kind of a um, kind of can definitely hurt their offensive line there. But I'm with you on this one. I think the Chiefs -3. It's in LA. It's against it's against Herbert, but more times than not, we've seen these Chargers go up and down, up and down, up and down. Where now I think the Chiefs are really on a steady climb, and it's going to stay, especially going near the end of into the regular season, into the playoffs, and these Chiefs can get hot, and they're hot at the right time. So I like the Chiefs right now on a short week Thursday night.
Yeah, hard not to like the Chiefs right now. Okay, Raiders at the Browns. Browns are now the dog. This line opened up. What are the Browns? I think is like 6-point favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, all the injury news. Baker's out. Kareem Hunt is doubtful. Jarvis Landry has COVID. Stefanski, their coach, has COVID. A bunch of O-line and D-line members have COVID, and they're out. Totals at 38.5, Steve. What do you got here with all that crap?
Yeah, this is a pretty crazy game. Earlier in the week, I locked the Raiders in at 6 on Tuesday because I started to hear whispers about some stuff happening. So I got in,
Value.
I got in quickly on that value. But as I'm sitting here, I'm just starting to think, and you look at the Browns, and you're like, all right, so if like we talked about that Thursday night game when the Browns had to play the Broncos, right? We were talking about, hey, is Mayfield being out and Keenum coming in really that big of a downgrade? Like maybe not. Nick Chubb looks like he's still a go. They are going to be probably without Landry, but on the other side, the Raiders aren't exactly with any of their stars either. I mean, Waller is probably going to be out again. They haven't really exactly been able to get their run game going. Their backup tight end missed practice today, or was limited at practice rather. This is an ugly game. This is one that I'm glad I have the value on, but I think you can maybe look at some value if you really want to, if you just want to bet a game because it's Saturday night. There's 2 Saturday night games this week. And the home spot, everyone could be like jumping ship right onto the Raiders, but it's just you're getting a home dog now, plus points with a quarterback that might be more capable than Baker with his shoulder injuries and everything that we've seen this year. Personally, if I didn't lock it in this, I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't touch this game right now at 1.5. But I would lean actually. I think the Browns now with the value.
Yeah, the Raiders at +6 is one hell. I mean, that's unbelievable value. Tough to pick the Browns here with everything going on. I mean, especially the fact that the coach is not going to be able to be a part of this team too, on top of all the injuries. So that means that the assistant coaches not only have to step up and coach the game, but they have to prepare this team all week. This team of backups, and I mean it's just a tough situation. I don't want to bet on the Raiders either, Steve. To your point, Raiders aren't exactly looking great. Max Crosby's a little banged up too. I'm sure he'll play, but if Darren Waller is out again because he's questionable right now and potentially might not play, this is just an ugly game. Probably a lot better games we could put our money on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something to know. 16 games this week, so no teams on bye, and I don't believe no teams on bye anymore. So we got a full slate now for 4 weeks. So there's plenty of choices. Let's move on here. Patriots at the Colts. Oh boy, Colts -2.5 at home. I believe, yeah, both these teams are off a bye. Totals of 45.5. So a few things going on here. Damian Harris and Brandon Bolden are questionable. Even if they don't play, though, Stevenson has been pretty damn solid. So I think the Patriots would be okay there. Like I said, both teams off a bye. Patriots white hot right now. Won 7 in a row. Colts, though, won 4 of the last 5 as well. It's not like the Colts are Colts are doing well too, stepping up a lot on defense. Wentz getting the job done. Both teams need to keep on winning, right? And they have favorable schedules here. That being said, man, the Patriots are so good against the pass. So I just expect them to stack the box and force Taylor to win this game. I mean, I don't think they're going to be afraid of Carson Wentz. I feel like you're going to have a narrative here in a few seconds where you tell me how Carson Wentz is going to blow this game, and I probably completely agree with you. I mean, I think this Patriots pass defense can create mistakes for Carson Wentz. This is a sneaky line, like, right? So everyone's talking about the Patriots, and yet the Colts are favored. I mean, the Colts are at home and they're a formidable team, but that probably just pulls a lot of people by surprise, right? And we talked about it already earlier this week, Steve, is that this line feels like a trap. Feels like it's just baiting us to take the Patriots. Obviously, take the Patriots. They won 7 in a row. They're the hottest team in the league. They might be going to the Super Bowl, right? You're seeing odds according to all these books and social media outlets talking about how it's going to be them and the Bucks. They have the highest odds. So all the steam is on the Patriots right now. But maybe the smart play is the Colts here at home to kind of surprise. If the Colts can produce some offense and if they can get their run game going, they have a shot here. But even with the bait, I feel like I still have to lean the Patriots just because of how well they play. They're coached, obviously, by one of the best coaches in the history of the game, who's going to keep his team prepared every week. So in that sense, it doesn't feel like it could be a trap. But this is obviously a tough game, Steve. And I feel like if it was the other way around, like -2.5 Patriots, I might be more inclined to pick the Patriots. But because it's on the other side, it's like, oh, this is a little tricky. What do you feel about this one?
Yeah, this does feel like a little bit of a trap to me. We know this run that the Patriots have been on at +2. Now they're +2.5. I just really feel like it's begging us and wanting us, Vegas is, to take that. Like, oh, there's the Patriots, take them. They've been winning. They've been very dominant, and I just have that feeling that that's not going to be the right side, because at the end of the day, I mean, realistically, as we know, week to week, it's hard to win in the NFL and it's hard to sustain winning in the NFL. Do we really think that Mac Jones is going to run the table the rest of this year from when they started their win streak, which was back in October, maybe? That'd be really impressive. Yes, they have the coaching, but don't sleep on Frank Reich and the Colts. I think they've been in a lot of close games this year where their defense is what really led up in the second half. Now they can build a lead in this one, and I don't really think the Patriots have the offensive style to be able to come back like the other teams that they've played against, like the Bucks that will come back second half, like the Ravens when they were a lot more healthy with Lamar throwing the ball in the second half at home in Baltimore. I don't think if the Colts can get that lead in this game, I don't think the Patriots have the firepower offensively to come back in the second half when we've seen the Colts defense let up. So that's going to be my key to look for. If the Colts get that lead, I think they'll be able to keep it. Getting under that key number of 3 is where we want to be at 2.5. So right now I am leaning the Colts at 2.5.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, Steve. We haven't seen the Patriots in that position, have we? Where they have to rely on their offense, right, to come back down 10 or down 8, or they haven't really been put in that spot. At least not that I remember from the previous games. The one thing about the Colts, though, I remember they are one of those teams. I think at one point they were last in the NFL in fourth quarter margin, right? They let a lot of teams come back in the fourth quarter. Now, I agree with you with the offensive prowess of the Patriots, but for some reason the Colts like to blow those second half leads. So I agree with you on that point. If the Colts can get ahead, they'll be in a prime position here in this game. Let's go Titans at Steelers, Steve. The Steelers are 1.5 point dogs at home. Totals at 41.5.
Yeah, so Steelers, another team that we've talked about it every week. They just really play to their competition level. But for some reason, being at home plus 1.5, we saw them at Thursday night. That short week, they came back. They almost came back and tied the damn thing after being down. What was it? 29-0. So now the Steelers are getting a lot more rest, because my narrative going into that game, Big Ben's going to be slow. It's a short week, and they really, that first half it showed. And now they have a little bit of a longer week. Titans, their defense, yeah, they were able to stop the Jaguars. I think created 4 interceptions, but take that for what it's worth. It's playing the Jaguars, rookie quarterback, and with a absurd coach who I'll talk about later with Urban Meyer. But they really weren't they weren't putting that Jags game away. You and I were watching that, and we were like, we had to constantly stay because that was one of our circa picks last week, looking at that game because they were not convincingly putting the Jaguars away. I just think the Steelers, that division, it's still within their grasp. They still have a shot, an outside shot of a wild card, even with because they have that tie that could definitely come into play for them. I think they're a very capable team, and just something about being in Pittsburgh, getting those points, and I'm just not really sold on the Titans being able to find their groove yet. I did hear that they're looking to get Derrick Henry back by the playoffs, so that could definitely be a completely different team by the time the playoffs roll around. Because I feel like the Titans with their record are probably almost gonna just be able to cruise right into the playoffs, regardless if they win their division or get a wild card spot. But I'm leaning on the Steelers right now. I just think they're gonna kind of bounce back a lot harder, come back out, and the issues with Chase Claypool. I think he's gonna show up this week and actually have a much better, bigger impact. Not making those dumb diva wide receiver mistakes. I think the Steelers are really going to just be back this week after kind of getting embarrassed, even though they almost came back. But that was really embarrassing. And I just like them to have had like a really good, we always talk about the Steelers, that blue collar type of practice, those reps this long week that they had to get back in. I like the Steelers against the Titans on that one.
Yeah, I kind of like a money line in this one too. I mean, it's such a short line. Why not? The one thing about the Steelers is just my own personal biases. They've, burned me a few times this year, but this is one of those spots you could certainly make an argument, Steve, that the Steelers right now, the current version of the Steelers have a considerably more explosive offense than the Titans. I mean,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, they almost came all the way back last week
Mm-hmm.
and, tied up that game at the end of the game. The week before they win against the Ravens, they make the plays when it matters. Ben Roethlisberger seems to be playing with an edge because it's as, I think he knows it's probably his last year in the NFL. So, I mean, he wants to go out hot. I agree with you about Claypool. I mean, annoying player and some of the reports that are coming out, but he has a ton of talent. He's a big dude,
Mm-hmm.
strong dude. So it doesn't. I mean, even if you're selfish, like like an Odell Beckham type can be, if you have the athletic, ability and the skills, and you're going to show up. The Titans are a buttoned up team. They get the job done. They've been winning because of their defense, but very underwhelming on offense. I really like the under in this one. I mean, under 41.5 in Pittsburgh with a Titans team that really can't do much on offense anyway. I mean, Julio Jones, right? Like he came back last week, but he didn't explode or anything. Like the Steelers in this spot too, Steve, and it's just scary because we've taken the Steelers in the past. Sometimes it works out really well and it hits the narrative that we're talking about at home, and then sometimes they just totally shit the bed. So hopefully Steelers in playoff season here, pre-playoffs, show up and they're the blue collar Steelers we know. That's my side that I lean on as well. All right, Panthers at the Bills. Bills 10.5 point favorites, and I think probably deservedly in this spot. I mean, totals at 44.5. So we're hearing now that Sam Darnold is probably going to be starting in this game. I guess the Cam Newton experience is over just like that. Josh Allen dealing with a toe injury, but I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm sure he'll play. We'll have to keep an eye on that one. DJ Moore is questionable, but these Bills, man, now they've lost 4 out of their last 6. They're 7-6 now, and this is a team who I think waltzed into this season just kind of assuming that they were going to be the first place team in the AFC East, and now talk of the town as usual, as long as Bill Belichick is in that division, is the New England Patriots. So it's kind of prove it time for me for the Bills. I mean, you have to start, if you're the Bills, you have to start stepping up here. You have to put in some big wins. You have to start feeling better about yourself. The Panthers last week got beat by the Falcons at home. Not much for me to like about the Panthers right now. There's a lot of, criticism going on Matt Rule and just that team as a whole and some of the decisions they're making. There is a look ahead here for the Bills. They have the Pats in Foxborough next week. But, if you ask me, with the Bills, with how often they're losing, not able to win again last week, the Bills need to start winning, Steve. And they're at home. Here comes a beaten up, Panthers team that has no hope of going to the playoffs or anything else. At least I don't think so. And if they do, it's a very, very outside shot. It's not going to happen. So the Bills here, I expect them to put everything together. I think that's why we're seeing such a huge line here. The line feels like it's baiting me to take the Panthers, as if I want the Panthers to try and cover this game. I'm pretty comfortable on this one. I think that the Bills are going to come out. They're going to play hard on defense. They've been very good against the pass this year against an abysmal Panthers offensive, a pass offense. And I think the Bills and Josh Allen show out. As long as Josh Allen is okay with this little toe injury, I think the Bills have their way with the Panthers here, and it's a big win.
Yeah, I'm definitely on it with on the right side there with you. I think, and I believe that is the right side. Actually, I looked up and found out that Sam Darnold, Matt Rule said he could be a factor down the stretch. He is off the injury reserve, but probably a few weeks out still. So now, Cam Newton and PJ Walker are splitting reps, and they just really don't really know which direction they're going. I think this week kind of shows that, this team is definitely looking, and there's already talk amongst the league and everything that Matt Rule is definitely going into next year going to be on the hot seat if he can't get it going quick. But I don't think there's going to be a look ahead for the Bills. It absolutely can't be. They have to win. They really have to win because they need to get to at least 10 wins to get a wild card spot. Because I personally think at this point, the division title might be a little bit too far out of their grasp, especially just looking ahead at the Patriots' schedule. That they have a much lighter schedule. They get to play Jacksonville versus where the Bills have to go. So I don't think the Bills can sleep on any of these remaining weeks. They have to be ready. They have to be sharp. Josh Allen was in that boot after the game against Tampa. However, it looks like he should be on track, fine to go. I think the Bills come out. This is a team in the Panthers that I think they're just trying to stay afloat at this point. They don't even know who their quarterback is. They really don't even have an identity. Their defense could probably show up for the first half, and I think then overall with the turnovers that are bound to happen with either Cam Newton or PJ Walker is going to just be too much, and I think the Bills will put them away in the second half handily.
Yeah, I kind of hope it's Cam Newton. Sounds good to me. All right, Cardinals at the Lions, another big favorite here. Lions 13-point dogs at home. Totals at 47.5. What do you got here?
Well, we just heard that Hopkins is out for the remaining of the regular season, so that is a big blow to the Cardinals. But what have we seen from the Cardinals this year on the road? They have just been nothing short of spectacular. I don't want to outspeak, but I want to say, are they undefeated against the spread on the road?
They are. They're 7-0 ATS.
It might be, and now they're going to play the worst team in the league, arguably. And I saw. What'd you say the line was at 13 and a half?
13, yeah.
13, yeah. So it was at 13 and a half. It moved down a little bit. I think a lot of the public, they just see these big lines and they get drawn into them. These are the lines that I actually try to lean more on and take more of, because the Cardinals are just good for a reason. And, you got the whole narrative. They just came off a loss, so they're going to be a little probably pissed off their Monday night loss. And now they know that they're going to play against a weaker opponent. So I think this is just that game where they just come in and lay it on them. The Lions are still trying to get back to being healthy. Swift will still be out, I believe. They really can't move the ball. They don't have that much talent. There's just too much talent, even without DeAndre Hopkins. We got to keep an eye. I think James Conner was on the injury list, so if he's not a go, they have to see if I think it's Edmonds, I believe, the other running back, because he was not a go last week. But I just think there's too much talent with Kyler Murray and the Lions that if you gotta take the team that's undefeated against the spread on the road.
Yeah, and then be flying around the field on the turf there too. I mean,
turf, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one narrative that I wanted to bring up is, the books got crushed last week. I mean, I believe it was 11-3
taking favorites,
right? So so one thing that I was just approaching this week with is, should I be looking at more dogs just because of that? Like, Vegas ain't gonna lose like that twice, right?
Right.
But at the same time, it's like from a macro perspective, I guess I can look at all the dogs and be like, okay, well, some of these are going to win probably, but I don't think this is one of those games. I mean, the Lions have been pretty good against the spread this year too, but the Cardinals are pissed off, after that loss against the Rams. Definitely have to keep an eye on James Conner because he's been great this year for Arizona. But yeah, the Lions running backs are all banged up. The backup running back is banged up too. Not a good set. The Lions got their win, like we said 2 weeks ago. All the Cardinals do is cover on the road. They're comfortable with it. So the only direction I can look here is the Cardinals. Total feels about right. So not much more to add. And now on the next one, pretty ugly game here, Steve. We got the Jet. I mean, every game with the Jets, I guess, is. But we got the Jets at the Dolphins. Dolphins are 10-point favorites. Totals of 42. Dolphins coming off a bye, Steve, and they've won 5 straight. Defense is improving and improving. Tua is comfortable. This is a really good spot for the Dolphins. I mean, the Jets, they just got smacked around by the Saints last week at home. I want to leave some of these Jets games with, we have our friend there, right, who's at the bar, who's a Jets fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to leave some of these Jets games and be like, hey, man, how about that? Like, the Jets did that pretty good. And I just, it's so hard to find. Like, there's like 1 sack per game. And they're like, let's go Jets. And then that's it. Like, I don't know what to get excited about for this team. Meanwhile, the Dolphins, talk about a quiet team. They won 5 straight. They're at home. And this is a huge line for a Dolphins team that was not good at the beginning of the year. But it is the Jets, and it is the Jets for coming from the Northeast and the cold and the wind, traveling all the way down to South Florida, where they probably just want to be pro athletes and, meet some babes and drink, And so, I mean, I don't know, man. 10 points actually feels right for me. I would still have to lean to the Dolphin side because of the way they've been playing on defense and how comfortable Tua seems. He's been very effective the past 5 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. The Dolphins they've been quietly hot these last 5 games as well. But the thing is with this one, it's like, the Jets, we know who they are, right? But their defense sometimes can show up, as we know. That line moved from 8.5 to 10, so a lot of people are on
Yep.
Miami, and that's kind of going back to your point that you just talked about. It's like, maybe we don't want to outthink ourselves here now, right? Like, okay, the books just got hammered, by taking all these favorites last week. At some point, some of these teams are going to be able to set, especially division games like this. But I just don't know if this is the one, because the Miami Dolphins have actually proven to be able to compete, win games consistently. They know what's at stake. This isn't like the time now where teams are going to be getting caught off guard. These last final 4 weeks, this is to make the playoffs and extend your season and keep your jobs, for a lot of players and coaches. So this is what matters. So I don't think any teams are going to get caught sleeping. These are the games that you have to absolutely win. You're at home. You're coming off that bye. I just don't think the Jets are deep enough to be able to really compete at this point. 10 points is a lot though for the Dolphins. So I'm gonna lean the Dolphins, but I'm definitely gonna be a little hesitant when I go to make my plays on that one.
Yeah, we talk about like unit size, like in your bets, right? It's like this is one of those bets where if I bet on the Dolphins, and it kind of leads into Circa too. It's like
Mm.
if I won't put 2 units on this game, then do we really want it in Circa? Because I'm
Right,
not
that's a great.
right.
God.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not even willing to put 2 units on this bet. So it sometimes that kind of leans me for or against some of these games. And I don't know if I could put more than 1 unit on the Dolphins, although I think it is the right side. Okay, Cowboys at the Giants. Another one of these with a big favorite that's probably right. I mean, you got the Giants are plus 10.5 at home. Now I know a divisional game. The Giants play the Cowboys hard. Totals of 44.5. I mean, that's pretty much the only positive thing I can say about the Giants is they historically they've played the Cowboys hard. Okay.
Right.
But Daniel Jones may not play for the rest of the year. He's going through some like tests on his neck right now and stuff. One thing to note is Pollard is still questionable. So, I mean, if the Cowboys, if you want to bet on the Cowboys, you probably want Tony Pollard in there. He's a better running back at this point. And Dak Prescott, I mean, the Cowboys are winning games because of their defense. Micah Parsons, I mean, that defense is stepping up. But Dak needs to step up. I mean, he threw 2 picks last week, just over 200 yards, nothing that impressive. against the Washington defense that's been up and down all year. Now, their defense only allowed 224 yards total last week. So this defense might be getting better and better. And that doesn't surprise me with their coaching. It doesn't surprise me with some of the talent that they have on that team. I think they have all the parts to be probably like a defensive team. And we thought at the start of the year this is going to be one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL, and it just hasn't turned into that. That's actually quietly another team that a lot of people are forgetting about, which I'll talk about later. But Steve just left me. I don't know where Steve went, so I'll just keep talking. But anyway, Glennon and Fromm, apparently, Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm apparently are going to be starting together in this one, or like switching or taking reps. So I'm not sure how the Giants are going to score points in this game, people. Steve's back. Let me bring him back into the stream here. Steve, we lost you, but I didn't stop talking, so you're good.
I got kicked out.
You didn't have to go piss like me, did you?
No, I don't know what happened.
different things going on over there, or what?
No, I don't know. It literally just kicked me out. I don't know.
Oh, okay, all right. As long as nothing bad's happening over there.
But
I thought someone was breaking into your house. You're gonna have to take them down. But yeah, man. I mean, so I was just saying, Dallas defense only allowed 224 yards last week. This is becoming a defensive team.
Mhm.
So my question is, how in the hell are the Giants? I mean, you could ride the narrative of NFC East rival, Giants at home, Giants going to show up. Okay, but you have Glennon, I guess potentially Jake Fromm in this game, who we don't know how he's going to play, but he was fourth string on the Bills, so he's probably not going to play that great. How are the Giants going to score? The Giants can't score points anyway. How are the Giants going to score points against a Dallas defense that is feeling themselves? Again, Steve, huge line. I lean towards the Cowboys, even at minus 10.5 on the road, which is that's a gross pick. It's gross, but I still lean in that direction.
Yeah, again, this is another one of those. And I'm looking. It says that Jake Fromm could possibly maybe get the nod this week. They're still they haven't really made any final decisions, but Glennon, as we know, has been pretty much Mike Glennon, so no surprise there. But that could be the one wrinkle that we could see for the Giants, like we saw with the Jets, with Mike White this year, that maybe Jake Fromm comes in and no one really has any film on him, and he's feeling himself that one game and does something. I'm not saying to the extent of what Mike White did, but that could be at play. But I think more so the Cowboys offense actually has not been really looking that great at all. They look sloppy. They aren't really moving the ball that well. Their defense is really what's keeping them in these games. And last week, they were up 18 points, and they really couldn't put away Washington football team because their offense was just making so many mistakes. I mean, we saw, I don't know, the play calling is just so suspect. Like, why are you running fade routes to Ezekiel Elliott in the corner of the end zone with a guy that says he has a banged up knee to a running back? Like, they're running seam routes with Ezekiel Elliott down the middle, 20, 30-yard pass. You have Cooper, you have Lamb, you have Schultz, you have Gallup. Like, what are you doing? So, Pollard is another still a question mark here on Roto World. They said he was going to return to practice. The next thing he says, he did not practice. So great reporting there. So, again, this to me is like the Miami. I feel more comfortable with Miami covering than taking the Giants to try to cover. Dallas, we know they're the better team. We know they're going to probably most likely win the division, especially if we're getting either Mike Glennon or Jake Fromm. Maybe you just don't overthink this one and you just close your eyes, put it in, put 10.5, just take it.
Yeah, maybe just one of those 1-unit plays again, right? We're not going to put too much on it, but how could that not be the right side? Just even with how the Cowboys aren't impressing on offense, their defense is awfully impressive.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Washington football team here, Steve, facing on your Philadelphia Eagles off of a bye. The total's at 44. What do you got on your Eagles, Steve?
Well, good news out is that Jalen Hurts is trending upwards, so it looks like he should be good and good to go by Sunday. Also, Jordan Howard, he's been out since week 11. He was kind of getting a lot of good runs there, so he could look to be back as well to get that run game really going. But the story is with the Washington football team right now is like they're one of those 7 teams on that COVID that got hit with COVID hard this week. Terry McLaurin, he didn't practice. He was in concussion protocol. Taylor Heineke, their starting quarterback, he hurt his elbow. I think he got taken out of the game last week. Looks like he should be available for the Eagles. So against the Eagles, they absolutely have to have him go because Kyle Allen, their backup's on the COVID list. So, I mean, also Curtis Samuel, one of their wide receivers, wasn't seen at practice. J.D. McKissick, their dynamic pass catching running back, wasn't seen at practice. So for me, we're looking at a team coming off a bye, healthy versus a team that, got really beat up Sunday and now the COVID hit them. Now they have to travel on the road. We've seen this line go from 5 to 7. I think it could even go up even more, maybe 8, 8.5. I like the Eagles in this one. They're coming off a bye. They know they're in such a good position right now. They have 3 home games out of 4. It could work out for them that if Dallas wins 2 games down the stretch, they sit their players that last game. Philly could win 3 of these last 4 and backdoor their way into one of these wild card spots. I like the Eagles to cover Washington pretty handily in this one.
Yeah, and I kind of like the under on this one too. Divisional matchup. I mean, Washington is very beat up, Steve, like you alluded to. I mean, if scary Terry McLaurin can't play in this game, now they're saying his concussion protocol like it's going well. It's looking promising, like he can play. But the Washington is just running out of players. Logan Ryan out, right? J.D. McKissick is banged up. Antonio Gibson is good, but McKissick brings another element to that offense as a pass catcher. And then just all the COVID stuff going on with Washington. I mean, none of that is happening as far as we know right now for Philly. Knock on wood, Steve, for your Eagles there. But big line in a divisional game, but everything is trending in the Eagles' direction here, and I don't think the Eagles are going to have much trouble running the ball either against Washington. So if they can get that going, Miles Sanders is a little banged up too, but he's trending up. If it really doesn't matter who's playing running back for this Eagles team, as long as they can get the running game going, I think they should have an easy time here. Plus, it's in Philly off a bye with a lot of hope for the playoffs. That play should be pretty raucous. So I also have to lean towards the Eagles. Also like the under in this one. Probably going to be a premium play for me. Let's go Texans at the Jags in a scintillating contest between 2 of the worst teams in the league. Jags are -3.5 at home. Totals 39.5. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this one, Steve, except all I'll say is the Texans did stomp the Jags the first game of the season. And why in the hell? I mean, I'll hand this over to you because I know you have some things to say about Urban Meyer. But why in the hell is Urban Meyer and this Jaguars team favored by 3.5? I know Texans are a bad team, but I think the Jags are the worst team in the NFL because if you talk about mismanagement, right? A coach which probably, if you're a player in the modern NFL and you're looking on your phone or you're looking on ESPN and you're seeing Urban Meyer saying shit to the media, who's clearly not happy, probably doesn't even know what to say. You got the guys on ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, who's not right about a lot of things, but he's calling for him to get fired, and he's probably right about that. There's just a ton of negativity around this Jaguars team right now, and the Texans handily beat them at the beginning of the year. It's not that different of a team. I mean, do we in the ugliest game of the year? Do we have to take the Texans here in a divisional contest? I'm kind of thinking about it, Steve. Why would I not lean? Unless there's some injuries or COVID concerns I don't know about, which I don't think I saw any for the Texans. Why would I not want to take the Texans here? Am I crazy?
Well, I think this is honestly I think this is like a vintage trap game right now because everything you just said. It for me, it just makes too much sense to take
Too much
Houston.
sense.
Yeah, it's one of those games that it doesn't make any sense. Remember before the Patriots were the Patriots, we thought they were kind of just like, I mean, they were getting beat by the Saints, back then in the beginning of the year. So we were kind of like, they're not really that good. Tom Brady's favored by 7, like hammer Tom Brady, right? Well, now, like you and I, we were on the Patriots. Didn't really make sense why to with Mac Jones and everything being a rookie against Brady, but it's one of those. This doesn't make sense, and all this media is swirling around right now too, and the line is still holding at 3.5. We got reports coming out that there's tension between Urban Meyer and his team. Adam Schefter just tweeted out, and I saw this story earlier, and I was like, "This is what I wanted to say." There's reports coming out. Josh Lambo, he's a free agent kicker now. That Urban Meyer kicked him at practice. Like, you have to read this. This is like the funny. Everybody go on to NBC Sports Edge and read this write up about what Josh Lambo is saying. That Urban Meyer went up to him in practice and literally was like, "Hey, motherfucker, make your fucking kicks," and he kicked him in the leg. That's what Lambo said.
Oh
But
my God.
so, you know, so you have all this stuff coming out, right? And the line's not moving, and I'm seeing a lot of betting percentage. It's like 70% right now. Over 70% of the bets are on the Texans. Line is still holding good at -3.5. So, it might just come down to like this is just one of those games where Trevor Lawrence is like, you know what, I gotta still show I'm worth a job as an NFL quarterback, even though I got this guy back here, running the show, and it has to put a team on his back and make some plays. And this is a game they're at home. Maybe this is the one Jags can snag. We did see the Jags beat the Bills earlier this year, so uh, I'm gonna probably lean towards the Jags on this one, honestly, just because all this news coming out and the line if the line keeps staying and more people are gonna probably want that narrative of Houston because it just is that juicy, good looking pick. That's the only reason I'm gonna take the Jags, because I'm gonna just fade the public on this one.
Yeah, I mean the lack of line movement there is really really weird. I mean that's a great call on that one, Steve. I mean that's just very strange. I mean Josh Lambo,
You gotta
dude.
It's
I
so
mean
fun. I was dying laughing, like, going through these injury reports, and just that pops up that, like, Urban Meyer kicked me at practice.
this is so absurd. Like you can't get away with that in the NFL, man. Like that maybe you could have got away with that in college, and these kids just take it, right? But it's just so interesting to me how all these pundits are like, this ain't going to work for Urban in the NFL. I mean, it all turned out to be right. I mean, it sure as hell doesn't seem like it's working out, Steve. I mean, God Almighty, that is hilarious. Poor little Josh. He might be leaving the team. He might kick himself off the team after that.
Well, he's
All
a
right,
free
let's
agent
go.
now. That's why he came out with
Yeah,
all
he's a
that.
free agent. Good, good. All right, Bengals at the Broncos. Broncos 2.5-point favorites at home. Totals of 44. Steve, what do you got here? Tough game.
Very tough game. I mean, gosh, I mean, you know, Teddy Bridgewater, we know he's a covering machine. This for me just feels like it's kind of gonna be the letdown spot that we've seen the Broncos put themselves in, where like they show up, they play well, they've been pretty consistent, but now you got the Bengals, who I feel like Burrow is gonna be really a top talent in this league. They're right there in their division. They need a win, and you're going to be going in getting that 1.5. I think they were 1.5 last week at home. I think this is the right side at 1.5 this time. I think it's a little easier to just want to take the Broncos because of the mile high narrative, because of Teddy Bridgewater. Broncos, as we know, they were going to be amped for that game last week, especially with everything that happened with Demaryius Thomas. I don't know if they're gonna still be able to keep riding that same emotion into this game. I feel like this could just be that one letdown spot for them after completely, really, in the second half, real dominating the Lions. I think the Bengals can sneak out of Mile High with a win. I mean, we saw Philly go in there and completely just dominate them on all sides of the ball. I wouldn't be shocked if this is the type of game we saw here.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I think, last week there's a lot of things going on in that game. The 49ers played a really tough game. The 49ers were there. And, game went into overtime. The Bengals still could have won that game. The big thing I'm looking at this one, Steve, is this lingering like finger issue for Joe Burrow? Is it a big deal? Is it something that's actually preventing him from playing great football? I don't know. I have to I need to look at more highlights maybe from last game, or look at some more reports, because I totally agree with you. This is just one of those picks that feels too obvious. Like the Broncos, yeah, they're favorites. It's up in Denver. It's at altitude. They just smashed the Lions last week. They got a lot of momentum. Nah, I mean the Broncos are a good team, but they're not that good. The Bengals have looked like a very complete team at moments this year, many times. And if they can get Joe Mixon going in this game, they can get their run game going. They can really control this game too. And Joe Burrow steps up. He steps up in spots like this where they need a win. Totally agree with you here. I mean, especially I'm seeing at 2.5 in some places now. I think that's a damn good line for the Bengals. It could be a close game. I mean, even if they lose by like a late field goal, maybe it's a 2-point win for the Broncos. So I think the value here is on the Bengals. This isn't a team that's just going to give up. If they lose this game, it feels like the Bengals season is getting out of hand a little bit, with the Ravens still up there, the Browns still up there, and the Steelers could win this week too. Bengals need to keep winning too. I mean, the Broncos, I think it's less feasible that the Broncos are going to make the playoffs with the Chargers and Chiefs in their division. So I think the Bengals still feel like they have a shot. This is a good team. Hopefully Zach Taylor doesn't, prevent them from doing good things with some of his stupid coaching decisions. But I think this is a week where the Bengals are a little more buttoned up. And I agree with you on this one, Steve. I lean towards the Bengals for now. All right, Falcons at the 49ers. Niners are 9-point favorites. At home, totals 45.5. Kittle with a little knee soreness. I'm sure he'll be fine. Tough win for those Niners last week against the Bengals in OT. Stepped up there at the end, made that nice touchdown finish there. Niners just keep stepping up. They're hanging around, Steve. They could still get into the playoffs. I'll tell you what, if the Niners win a few games before the playoffs quietly, I don't know if teams want to face the Niners. They're just kind of unpredictable, and when they play well, they play really well. This is obviously a game that the Niners should win, but 9 points is a lot. The Falcons won last week against a shitty Carolina team, so not sure what to take from that. This is a weird game, Steve. I mean, it's gonna be hard pressed for me to ever have a Niners game in Circa or a Falcons game in Circa like that. These are two teams who I just don't, the Falcons have moments, the 49ers have more moments, but a lot of inconsistency here. I say this about the 49ers every week. Maybe, listen to a small market 49ers podcast if you want some more insight on them, because I sometimes I just can't give it here on this show. The 49ers are tough to figure out week to week. But if Kittle's a go, they should have their way on offense with the Falcons, at least. I kind of like the over in that way. Maybe Matt Ryan finds a way to get some points, but 9 points is a little too rich for my blood, Steve. What do you got here?
Well, who knows Matt Ryan better than anyone? Kyle Shanahan.
Shanahan.
Right. So you gotta just love that narrative that Kyle Shanahan is just gonna be able to work with the defensive coaches to be able to put that pressure on Matt Ryan, and also just that coaching factor. Just take it to the former team as well. I think we saw what Kittle was amazing last week, unbelievable. I saw an interesting stat. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's the best completion rate when facing pressure this season. So he is staying in the pocket and he's able to withstand the pressure. You got to like that in a quarterback as well. A lot of people, as we know, we like to dog Jimmy G, always questioning, is he that guy? Can he make the big plays? Well, he certainly showed it last week, in overtime, being able to, it's pretty hard when you have a lead and your defense gives that up, and then you have to go to overtime, especially on the road. That's pretty deflating. And to have a drive to go down there and just win it off a touchdown, that shows somebody that you're gonna want to lead your team, especially here down the stretch. Falcons, I've talked about their secondary. I never really was very high on them. One of their defensive backs is he's out with a torn pec, so they're going to be even more thin this week. Now they're traveling to the West Coast. I think the Falcons, believe it or not, are still have a shot for a playoff spot, but I think this is where we're going to start to see them just kind of slowly unfold. I think the 49ers can really take it to them on this one.
Yeah, 49ers the best red zone team in the NFL too, just like red zone percentage. I think they're going to be able to get to that red zone a lot in this game. So, yeah, Steve, I had to look on my phone to see when the last time the 49ers faced the Falcons in the regular season. I had to go back to 2019, and the Falcons actually won that. Yeah, Falcons actually won that game, which is interesting. So maybe this is even more of a game that Kyle Shanahan wants to win because of that, because he was coaching the 49ers at that point.
Feels like it was probably like a Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard.
Yeah, exactly. Probably
Jimmy G injury time kind of thing there.
Look at
So yeah,
that historical intel from Steve. You gotta love that. Yeah,
well,
but
I
you're
mean,
right. It
I
probably
mean,
wasn't Jimmy G.
probably wasn't. Well, it could have been. I'm just taking a shot in the dark on that one.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's go. Seahawks at Rams, Steve. This is a tough one with everything COVID wise happening for the Rams, but Rams still -4.5, totals of 45.5.
Yeah, the one thing I just can't get over is historically, like the Seahawks just show up and play very tough against the Rams. Something about these two division teams, they really do take it to each other. Beginning of the year, we saw this was the matchup where Russell Wilson injured his finger, and Gino had to come in, and that kind of the game obviously got away from them. But it was rather close in the first half of that game. So Seahawks are coming. They look like they are trending back in the right direction. They were kind of hanging with the Houston for a while there, and then opened up the game in the second half with some long touchdown runs and made the score look a lot better, I think, than what it really was. Rams coming off of that really impressive Monday night win down in Arizona, but I think these are those games where we're really analyzing these division matchups this week that we're like, yeah, but we know how these teams historically can be. And with a guy like you're still getting Russell Wilson at +4.5. He's a kind of guy with Pete Carroll coaching that's a lot of points to give these veteran quarterbacks against teams like Matt Stafford. That I heard a very interesting stat that was like on Monday night was his best win, like against a team over 500 in week 15. I don't think he's ever beaten a team over 500 in week 15. Like it's like stupid because I mean think about it. The Lions are always usually
Lions,
like
yeah.
awful. So I'm gonna lean on Seattle. I'm gonna lean on Seattle on this one.
Wow, yeah, there's just so many narratives in this way that you can go. I mean, the Rams, having to shut down their facility. They have a bunch of just random players out because of COVID. Not really anyone that important. I mean, obviously Odell has COVID, so he's out. But I mean, the Rams are so loaded, and as long as you have Cooper Cup, it's like, I mean, are you worried at all about the Rams offense? Cooper Cup has been insane. Henderson will be out of this one, but that didn't seem to matter that much last week.
Michelle.
Yeah, what's his name? Backup running back playing really well. Sony Michelle. Yeah, he's looked really good, Steve. I mean,
Mhm.
there was a few runs where it was like 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, and they should not have got the first down, but Sony Michelle just like trucked like a few guys and got to the first down. So he's looking fresh. And sometimes,
Yeah.
for these NFL teams, I think it works to their advantage at this point in the season if they have to rest their starter, right? Because that starting running back is so banged up. But yeah, man, there's so many competing narratives here. You have the COVID going on with the Rams. Seahawks always play the Rams hard. Like you said, you still have Russell Wilson getting points here, but you still have a Seahawks team who just came off a good win. Okay, so now they got a few wins that, they beat up on a bad opponent last week in the Texans. And I mean, tough spot on the road, I guess. But not, could the Rams be settling into who they really are? I think how COVID is going to affect this team is more from a depth kind of issue, but it's not going to affect most of the starters in this team. I mean, if Aaron Donald can get to Russell Wilson, which I think he will be able to against a very shallow Seattle offensive line, I mean, this game could potentially be a blowout, or it could be one of those tough division games. I really don't have a bullish perspective on which one of those narratives are going to play out just yet. I want to play the Rams after what I saw last week. Kind of like the Rams are back narrative back in the competition here. But to your point, Steve, these Seahawks, who don't have a lot to play for the rest of the season, are going to want to play really hard against their division opponents and
Mhm.
are going to want to potentially, ruin some of their playoff hopes. So this is just one of those games where the Seahawks are probably going to show up and play as hard as possible. That's all I'll say about that one. I really don't have a side just yet. Let's go to Packers at Ravens. Another tough one here because of a lot of competing angles. So, first thought, Steve, the easy thought right away is I'm like, well, I'm going to go with the Packers. I'm going to take the Packers 5.5 points. I don't care that it's on the road. The Packers have been. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been surgical this year. The Packers show up time and time again. They're the best ATS team in the NFL still. Rodgers has this toe thing going on, doesn't seem to bother him. If you look at the Packers like stats, like take a deep dive, they don't jump off the page in a lot of categories at all. They just do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do it. They keep teams at a distance, and and they don't let teams score a lot of points, and they don't let teams make the big plays. Period. And this is just a good team. It's a really really solid all around team. And then you got the Ravens, who Lamar Jackson, is he playing this week? He's not practicing. It seems like the ankle's bothering him. In my opinion, and I probably tweeted a little too intense about it, but Huntley looked better than Lamar last week. I mean, now Lamar Jackson, okay, he's been on this team. Everybody loves to, people are afraid, it seems, to say that Lamar just doesn't have the arm that he should at this point in his career. He has a good arm, but he doesn't have a great arm, people. And Huntley came in that game and he was stretching the field a little bit. I mean, as we know, Steve, the fucking Ravens almost came back and beat the Browns, and our Browns blew it. So, I mean, our Browns, it was our circa pick. So, and I saw Huntley go up and down that field against the Browns, who had the Ravens, and they were done. It was 24-3 at the half. So, do I feel better about the Ravens? Do I feel just as good about the Ravens at home as 5.5-point dogs, even if Lamar can't go? I don't know, because that defense, the thing for me, Steve, is that defense is so depleted at this point. Harbaugh is very transparent about that too. The only reason why they came back in that game, I think, is because of Baker Mayfield and some of the Browns' mistakes. This is the Packers, who have been doing it every single week except for week 1, basically. I still have to lean to the Packers side in this one. The Ravens are a tough team. This is towards the end of the year. They want to stay in playoff contention, but right now it doesn't seem like anything's going to stop Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it's news coming out that the Ravens actually signed Josh Johnson today from Jets practice squad, because I think they're preparing for Lamar to not go this week. It looks like his availability is probably most likely not going to be able to suit up, leaving Huntley probably to be the guy. And I would just imagine right now, if you can get the Packers at 5.5, I think you should just take that now, because I don't see it going down. It's just going to climb up, I think, now from here on out this week. We did see Huntley, he was impressive, bringing the team back, but everyone was, he did stand in a pocket like a statue, get hit for a sack fumble that turned into a touchdown for the Browns as well. So yeah, he was carrying them down the field to get touchdowns, but he's also the result of touchdowns for the other team as well. So take that in perspective, in the ratio as for that as well. He's a backup quarterback for a reason, and how can you not like Aaron Rodgers? I mean, he looks the most calm I've ever seen him this year. Like the Bears, they come out, was it Monday night or no, Sunday night, and we're up 10-0, and I was like, oh wow, this is like, like I'd start, if I'm a Packers fan, I'm kind of worried. They're like rowdy, they're like hitting, like sack Rodgers. He's just over there on the sideline, sitting in the stands with his beanie on, just everywhere, just chilling.
He's everywhere.
Didn't even bother him at all.
He's bilocating.
Oh my God, did they? And then they just, it's just like, all right, I still own you, and it just goes out and just dominates. So I'm trying to draw something up. We could want to lean on like, oh, but the Ravens defense, well, they're so backed up. It's just, this team is just, hanging on and just trying to crawl to try to hopefully maybe sneak getting the division win. If Lamar comes back next week, I think the Ravens really are just, this week, they're kind of just probably like, all right, let's just try to just conserve all we can, get Lamar healthy, so then we can maybe make a really good push. The Packers kind of game, like why start Lamar? If statistically you can still make the playoffs with a loss. Why have him go out there against a top 5 team, get busted up even more, and ruin your chances of making the playoffs. So I just think the Ravens are just kind of maybe just kind of trying to get out there healthy, and Packers can just run through them here. Another thing I just want to touch on, I know the Eagles have like chants, we do the EAGLES after like big plays and like sacks and touchdowns, we pick our spots when we do it, but Ravens fans at the bar doing
Ravens
cheers
fans at the bar, chill out.
every first down. Like like it's high school. It was exhausting. Stop doing that.
It
That
was
was
bad.
embarrassing.
Yeah,
Like
what they
embarrassing.
say, move the
Move
chains,
those
move
chains,
the
move
chains.
those chains. Huh. Oh
Uh,
my god. You just wear more purple camo. Jesus.
yeah, that's how I know you're my friend, Steve, because I couldn't have friends like that. Like
Oh my
my the day that I chant like that for my team down 20 points when they're getting first downs, I mean, shoot me. I'm not. It's not going to happen.
It's
Uh,
exhausting.
nah,
So
nah.
imagine being at the bar and hearing that for 4 quarters of football.
Yeah, that was Steve and I last week.
What a
As our pick was on the Browns and Circa, we had to listen to
oh,
these.
this is
Yeah,
so
yeah,
mad. But
yeah.
now if you were on the Ravens, I probably would have been joining in on it.
Plus three, plus three.
Let's move those chains. Let's go. It was
No,
ridiculous.
it was bad. It was bad.
Stop doing it. Awful.
It was bad. But yeah, I guess I can't rag on them for cheering, for cheering for a quarterback that can throw the ball. All right, let's go to the Saints. Let's go to the Saints at the Bucks, Steve. Bucks are 11-point favorites. Sunday night football. Uh those quiet, I'm telling you, the Bucks feel like they're just quiet right now, which is scary. Totals at 46.5. What do you got here, Steve?
I just think the Saints really aren't they're just not dynamic enough to upset the Bucks or to even really, I think, stick with them and cover in this game. Uh, they're kind of a one-trick pony at this point with Taysom Hill. He got he got some long runs against the Jets. This Bucks team, I think, listening to Brady this week, he knows. He even said, like, "Hey, we really want to win the division. Bucks haven't won it since 2007." He cares about that kind of stuff. You know, that's one thing that probably pissed him off last year. Yeah, they won the Super Bowl and everything, but he didn't have that perfect season where he won the division too. He wants every accolade, he wants every title, and he wants to do it in convincing fashion. I think last week as well, letting the Bills come back on them, that kind of stuff pisses him off as well because we see it. We see it from him. We hear how he talks. He knows he's the best. He wants to show why he's the best, and I just think this is going to be a statement game by Tampa. That all right, here we go. This is we're getting our playoff berth out of the way now, and now it's playoff time, and we're ready to roll.
I 100% agree, Steve. I mean, this is the same Bucks team that lost to the Saints, right, in their first game against the Saints
Mhm.
at New Orleans. This one's at Tampa. The Bucks are 5-1 against the spread at home. If you look at their stats, I mean, this is quietly the best team in the league. I mean, right there with the Packers.
Mhm.
I mean, number one in pass offense, number one in offense in other categories, number one rush defense. I mean, last week the Saints won because of Alvin Kamara. The Saint. I mean, Kamara had like 120 yards in the ground. He's a difference maker. The Saints are going to force Kamara. They're going to load the box. They're going to force them to win with Kamara and only Kamara, and it ain't going to happen. Totally agree, Steve. 2 words if you're a Saints fan and you think they can win or cover this week. Well, I shouldn't say that. They could cover. Nothing's a guarantee in this betting thing. But if you're on the Saints side, I just have to say good luck. I think the Bucks lay the wood in this one, man. I think it's a blowout. Happily going to take the Bucks at -11 here, and I expect it to climb too, Steve. There's just no indication that the Saints are going to be able to keep pace with
Mhm.
the Bucks after beating them the first time. Boy, get ready uh, for the Brady effect in this one. All right, Vikings at the Bears, final game Monday Night Football here. Are the Vikings going to actually take care of business in a game where they should? Bears are 3.5-point favorites at home against those Vikings, and totals at 44. That's all I really have to say in this one, Steve. Are the Vikings going to, last week it felt like the Bears, right? They shot their shot. I mean, that was it. The Bears, after all the I own you, Chicago Bears from Aaron Rodgers, they still couldn't do it. They couldn't beat the Packers. They were up by 10 at the very start of that game. They couldn't cover that game. I know it was at Lambeau Field, but the Bears, come on, get motivated, show up. Good game for Justin Fields, I guess. The offense is definitely better with Justin Fields. So I don't know what Matt Nagy is ever thinking if he's, questioning that. Justin Fields is a dynamic player, but he still has a long way to go. And this is a loaded Vikings team at only 3.5. and I don't care that it's on the road. I'm not saying I'm going to bet on the Vikings, but the Vikings should win and cover this game. Period. They should. Are they going to? I don't know. But there's no reason why they shouldn't cover this game except for the fact that the Bears are on the road, Steve. I mean, I last week's loss for the Bears had to be so deflating. If you're the Vikings, shut up and win. Period. And win big. That's what I think. But I can't bet on them, Steve.
Yeah, I actually am leaning towards the Bears on this one at 3.5. over that crucial hook there. We know Kirk Cousins on primetime games can sometimes be a shell of himself, especially in Monday Night Football games. Minnesota's 1-4 against the spread against the NFC North, as well as their division opponents. It just, for me, I mean, we're going to have two bad coaches going at it as well. But, Fields, as you said, is dynamic. He can make plays. They do have some big playmakers on that Bears team. And this could be one of those games that, Vikings, again, playing down to competition. Yeah, the Bears could be deflated, or are they really, though? I mean, you went toe-to-toe with one of the best teams in the league. You had a lead on them, and a special teams play arguably got that game really far out of reach. Because if we watch that game, Bears did a punt, and one of their players was pushed out of bounds, got right back in, and then the Packers muffed the punt. And they're like, oh, no, like, you got to repunt. Like, what are we doing? Like, no, clearly you guys muffed the punt. You shouldn't get to re-kick there. It's such a dumb rule. He ran out of bounds, so they called a flag on him. But right there, the Bears are right in it. If they can get a touchdown, if they recover that muff punt, like 99% of the time, it usually goes that way. So I don't really look at it being as deflated for them. I think this is a game where they are going to build off of. Fields got back last week after being off for like 2-3 weeks, got his feet wet, can come back now against, as we know, what I think, Vikings are a lesser opponent than the Packers at home. And, possibly maybe upset or, just be within that realm of covering for this one. So I'm going to lean on the Chicago team at home.
Yeah, very interesting that the Vikings aren't covering against their own division too. Wow, that sounds very Kirk Cousins and very Vikings-like.
Oh, yeah,
All right,
absolutely.
Steve, let's wrap this puppy up. Who are your big balls and your teasers? Let me just give you my big balls first because I got them out the gate here. I think the Bengals and the Steelers are both going to win, and they're both dogs.
I
What do you
like
like?
I like that a lot. Actually, that's not a bad one. I like the Bears. I like the Bears to win outright. I think
Wow.
they can sneak a win out here. Yeah, I think the wheels are coming off for the Vikings.
Yeah. Remember when the bartender said she picked every dog last week, and then the dog,
Every dog money line. It wasn't even.
and the
It
dog,
wasn't.
yeah, money line, and then the dogs didn't even cover.
They parlayed every dog money line last. That's probably the worst week to do it
Yeah,
the whole
worst
year.
week ever. 20 cents to win $1 million or something.
Yeah,
I mean, well, good
I'll
lord.
take that shot.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? I mean, if your book allows it, why not? All right.
Well,
How about your?
I brought up a good point. Is that still better odds than winning the Powerball?
It probably. I mean, I don't know. When you look at the odds in that, have to be like. I mean, it has to be like 20 digits long at least.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're turning 20 cents into $1 million, ooh. How about teasers, Steve? You got any of those?
I don't have any right now formulated, but if I were going to, it would have to be. I really like a lot of these high spreads this week, so I would probably tease Buffalo down to 7, then also the Cardinals, and then also Tampa Bay.
And how about those Eagles? You can just tease the Eagles to win.
You can just tease them to win. I think they're going to win too. Yeah, that's not a bad
kind of
one.
like teasing Kansas City in the opposite direction, get them over 3 as a dog. I mean, if the Chargers win that game, they're not going to like blow out the Chiefs, at least not 2 times in a row. They're not going to win by margin. And then the Eagles to win. I like that, Steve. I don't see why the Eagles, with everything going on with COVID on Washington's side, can't win. All right, man. This was one of the bigger pods we've done, but there were 16 games. What are you going to do? There's a lot on the line. You want me to hit the music again on the way out? Dude,
Oh, you gotta do it.
It's game time, Steve. It is. We are here. Oh my God. 4 weeks left, baby.
4 weeks left. Okay.
Circa Sports Million, 4 weeks left. Your boys are top 50. Cheer us on. Support us on Twitter. Let us know if you guys had any questions or comments about this show. Thank you so much for listening. Steve, let's go. Let's do it again, baby.
Let's go, baby. Good luck, everyone, this week. Thank you for listening.